but one dude that I really got to give credit to, that's like not like 100,000, 200,000 YouTube subscriber or anything like that. His name's EyeWil. He's the OddPilt.
His name's EyeWil. He's the OddPilt. His name's EyeWil. He's the OddPilt.
And what I love about watching this is you see the fumble stumble, of course, in the beginning of the video.
And what I love about watching this is you see the fumble stumble, of course, in the beginning of the video. You see the fumble stumble, of course, in the beginning of the video.
But you know that as soon as this sample gets through these boxes, after watching somebody work, any artist that you pay attention to and you watch them, you're like, here it comes. Any second now, and it's gonna drop. Every time, dude, he pulls through.
Every time, dude, he pulls through. Dude, he pulls through. Dude, he pulls through.
And always drop some original heat. I really think it's dope.
And always drop some original, and I really think it's dope. And always drop some original, and I really think it's dope.
His name's EyeWil. He's the OddPilt.
His name's EyeWil. He's the OddPilt. His name's EyeWil. He's the OddPilt.
And always drop some original heat. And I really think it's dope.
And always drop some original heat, and I really think it's dope. Drop some original heat, and I really think it's dope.
And his name's EyeWil. He's the OddPilt.
His name's EyeWil. He's the OddPilt. His name's EyeWil. He's the OddPilt.
How you doing? I'm fine. I can hear you perfect. Just a second now. Skype record. Where is that now? Can you turn on the Skype record? I don't see it here. Usually it's there, like, you know. All right. I have you on my OBS.
I got it.
Ooh.
I think it's recording.
Perfect. Do you record yourself with the phone?
Yes, this is my phone right here.
Oh, this is your phone. So you're talking through the phone, but you're not recording yourself with another device, no?
No.
No, no. So yeah, we have to rely on the quality we have, because usually what I do with my guests, if they can, they record themselves with a mobile phone. So the quality is then way nicer, like, you know?
I have another phone right here.
Yeah, perfect, perfect.
Plug this back in so I can hear you again. Alright, cool. I'm recording. Should be good.
Nice one, nice one. I love those beginnings. I always use them at the beginning of the video because it's savage, like, you know. Today's world, everything is so perfect, like, you know, all the videos are nice and everything is perfect. I actually enjoy this moment, like, you know.
Yeah, and I appreciate the detail, you know, like if you want to do it better, I'll help, you know.
You see the fumble stumble, of course, in the beginning of the video, but you know that as soon as this sample gets through these boxes, after watching somebody work, any artist that you pay attention to and you watch them, you're like, here it comes. Any second now, it's gonna drop.
So Bob Ross.
The hip-hop Bob Ross, that's right.
TheOddPilt, man. You're down in Maine. You're down in Maine. That's almost in Canada.
We're basically in Antarctica. It's up there, man. It's up there. It's definitely northern, you know. Wilderness country up here.
I've seen you fixing up your bike and fixing up your pipe, you know, in the studio and all that, and we fix our shit in here, you know. I was laughing, like,
we don't just go and buy new shit, we fix our shit.
Nice one. Did you grow up over there in Maine?
I did, yep. I grew up with a bloody nose and running around graveyards. That's my childhood.
I'm gonna butcher that now. It's that Orono.
Orono. That's where I live right now. I'm in the college town of Orono, Maine. I grew up actually in a town called Brewer. It's like the you know, it's the city across the river from the bigger city. You know what that is. I'm sure you've heard of that. You know, every place has one, has the little brother syndrome. Yeah, that's what I've got. I got the small town that thinks they're a big town.
All right. What's the capital of Maine? Portland?
No, that's our biggest city. But Augusta is actually the capital of Maine. So Augusta is about an hour away, hour and 15 minutes or so. If you're ever in the area, this goes out to anybody that's within a drive distance to Acadia National Park. Yeah, you're gonna want to go and check out Acadia National Park. It's breathtaking. It's one of the dopest spots that I've ever been to, and I've been to a few places. I've been to Cambodia. I've been to Thailand. I've been to Mexico. I've seen the pyramids, you know, in you know, in Mexico, and been to the ruins in Cambodia, Angkor Wat, all that. And Acadia National Park holds its own. It really does. They've got some hidden gems, you know, like there's this one spot that's been basically eroded over, you know, millions of years, and it's created a cavern that is at the side of a cliff. So on the side of this cliff there's a giant cavern, and I say giant, but it's really probably maybe like 25 feet in diameter, so what, 10 meters or whatever in diameter. And what happens is the waves go in there, and they go all the way to the back of this cavern, and they smash up against the back of the wall, and it sends out this reverberation that you can feel. It's like it's like a huge bass cannon, and people have died because they've actually fallen into this cavern and been smashed. And you know, it sounds a little tough, but it's a beautiful country that's got some pretty dope features to it. So I know I went on a rant there, but yeah,
that's your job, man. That's your job.
It's cool.
So tell me now, in Maine, is there any rough places to avoid?
It's mostly just peaceful. It's mostly just wilderness. You know, our big cities are as big as probably the small cities in other places. I think we only have like 1 million people in the whole state of Maine, but you know, our biggest city probably has like, well, the biggest city near me only has like 60,000 people in it, so it's pretty small. But when it comes to music and stuff like that, because I mean, I'm here. I'm a musician. I'm a producer. I'm a live performer. But this was not something that I grew up with. I didn't grow up with hip hop. I didn't grow up with musical instruments. I wasn't in any bands. I'm a kid that runs around with a bloody nose, breaking windows, getting in trouble, and I went into the military. And I was introduced to a lot of different types of people, a lot of different cultures, because when you get out of the state of Maine, you realize like the world is a different place than what you think. So I fell in love with hip hop, and I fell in love with the culture that surrounds hip hop, the underdog mentality, the fight for what's yours. That type of mentality really resonates with me. So I'm not a rapper. I'm not like I don't play any instruments, like I said, but I always had rhythm. I always was fascinated with noise. I always had a giant subwoofer in my car. And that started when I took my mother's speaker out of her living room and wired it up in my trunk. So I took the house speakers out. I don't know if you ever did anything like that, but I took the house speakers and put them in my car and wired them up. And I was listening to heavy metal. So it was quite like, looking back on it now, I just didn't know. Like, I didn't know that I was kind of drawn to hip hop style music. I wasn't, I didn't have anybody to really show me a lot of different stuff when I was little, so I just listened to what my parents were listening to and what my friends were listening to. But I always was gravitating towards these things that had like drum breaks in them. Like heavy metal, like there's some Korn, and there's some early Limp Bizkit and early Deftones stuff that has like a lot of boom bap drum characteristics. So naturally, I kind of was drawn to creating boom bap, I think, because it's the closest thing to heavy metal. And sound design has come with a passion for me. These, other pieces of equipment that you see around here are all different paintbrushes. I'm the hip hop Bob Ross because this is my canvas. These are my paintbrushes, and I use a technique that Bob Ross created called alla prima, and that just means wet on wet. And I got a painting up here in the back. I did this painting live on YouTube. I never did a painting before. But he doesn't worry about like if it's perfect. He doesn't worry about what the final product is supposed to be. What he does is worries about the craft, and he knows that he has to get to a finished product before he can judge it. So he just keeps on going. And with the way I create music, I kind of do this where I use whatever I'm given. And I also, am a traditional producer, but I just don't use computers. So I compose, I work with MCs. You can find me everywhere, Spotify, Apple Music. Just check out TheOddPilt. You'll see all my music there. I'm on Bandcamp. I prefer people come to Bandcamp because it helps me better. But I'm on Instagram at EyeWillCreate. And that name is significant. Both names are very significant, but EyeWillCreate started as a YouTube channel, and I was just looking for a place to express myself, to be creative. I had vision problems. I was blind for about 4 years. I was legally blind. I was 20 over 400 in both eyes. It's like crazy, bad vision. And so I started to mess around with music as kind of therapy, you know, and a lot of people say this, but it's really helped me a lot. And as I started to learn about music production, you know, I took a course at Berklee School of Music and learned Ableton. And I just really wanted to learn how to do all of this stuff in real time. I didn't want to use a computer. I didn't want to compose by staring at it's not about, how do I say it? Like, it's not about becoming famous, or it's about the art. So anybody can have a laptop and make music that sounds like the stuff that you hear on the radio now. But it's another thing if you can do something completely different, completely original, and something that no one else can do. So to be able to make music in real time using electronics as kind of my extra set of hands, it's been a really difficult process. And EyeWillCreate learned how to use all this stuff, and I taught people how to use this stuff as I grew with it. And then as I got to a place where I realized, wow, I can actually make music, I kind of accidentally got good at making beats, just repetition over and over. And I realized that I needed somewhere that I could separate the guy who does tutorials, the guy who has a YouTube channel that teaches people. I wanted to separate that from another thing that is just about music. And it's kind of like putting out everything that I've learned with this other character called TheOddPilt. So my name is Will. I have bad eyes. So EyeWil created TheOddPilt to make bangers. So that's what I do. And I just try to experiment and do things that other people don't think to do.
And that's absolutely beautiful. But let's go back to the start. Let's go back to Army and the Special Forces. Tell me, how did you end up in the Army?
What's up to all my fellow veterans out there? Happy Veterans Day. Fort Sill, Fort Benning, Airborne, Fort Bragg, 7th Group and 3rd Group Special Forces, Panama, 1998-2001. So, hope everybody's having a great day. Thank you for your service. Peace.
When I was 17 or 18, I mentioned that I was kind of like the troublemaker kid in a way. I was more of a follower. I got into some serious trouble, and one of the requirements was, if I wanted to not be in trouble, basically, if I wanted to not ruin my life before I'm even an adult, I could agree to do some service time in the Army. So I was planning to join the Army. I didn't think it was going to come quite that soon. I was going to wait a few years, but I had to do it, or I was going to end up going to jail. So I joined the military, and I signed up for a 3-year enlistment. I went to airborne school. Before I even left Maine, I was at a hospital, and they do these evaluations. They do these question things, and you do all this stuff. It's called your ASVAB. So you do all this kind of it's all about health. You know, is this person a healthy person? Are they smart enough to be in the military? It's like a whole evaluation. They thought I was capable of being a Green Beret in the Special Forces. I don't know what they saw or what I said or in what way they came up with that. I'm not sure, but I watched the doctor write down refer to SF group. So he wrote that down on the side of my and I still have it, it's upstairs. So I assume that if somebody that does clinical evaluations thinks that there's a potential candidate for special forces or for other special operations, they probably kind of like hand-picked them depending on certain factors. Maybe it was my height, or maybe it was my build, or I don't know. But maybe it was something in my blood work. I have no idea. So I went into airborne school, learned how to jump out of airplanes, and I went to, started out going to Fort Sill for basic training, went to Redstone Arsenal, Alabama for my schooling, which I was a 55 Bravo, and that's an ammunition specialist. So after that was finished, that was in Fort Benning, Georgia. The jump school was in Fort Benning, Georgia. 2-3 weeks, learn how to jump out of plane, then you go to your next duty station. So that was Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and that's where I was for about 2 years. I went to Panama as an active service member just after we had somewhat of a conflict over there in Panama back in like '99 or something. So yeah, I was in 3rd group, Special Forces group. I was in 7th group, both out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and that would have been around between 1998 and 2001.
Nice one. So tell me now, your vision, was that like an accident?
No, it's actually a genetic condition called Behçet's disease. It's spelled Behcets, and it's an autoimmune, but it's also an inflammatory condition. So it took my vision, and it also really screwed up a lot of stuff in my joints. For a long time I was very sick, and then I got lupus 2 years ago. Actually this was last year. The medicine for the Behçet's disease, I was getting chemo treatments for 12 years. So I was on a chemo regimen every 5 weeks up until last year. So every 5 weeks I would go and get this treatment, and after 12 years my body finally said enough, and I developed a reaction to the medicine that was keeping me healthy. So it actually gave me drug-induced lupus. So I'm just finally getting over that. I was bitten by a tick last summer, and I got Lyme disease, which is also just like a temporary thing. So it's not something that you have to live with forever. I had antibiotics, and I had this giant rash thing that was like all red all over my body, and it was painful, but I haven't really noticed any like long-term effects. I already had shit going on before I was bitten by the tick, so I don't know if that had anything to do with much after that, but yeah, so that's pretty much the medical side. It took me down a bad path. I was prescribed tons of narcotics. I was on painkillers, which I didn't need the painkillers for pain. I was a drug addict, so I needed the painkillers for drugs. So I was being prescribed heavy doses of morphine, of methadone, of Oxycontin, all this stuff. And I was, for about 8 years, I was heavily addicted to drugs. And I was in a homeless shelter. This is 2008. I ended up in a homeless shelter, and they had a rehab the homeless shelter itself was broken up into two sides. There's like a wet side, which is the side that you go to if you're still actively using. And then there was a dry side, and they had like 10 beds on the dry side, and you were supposed to be committed to recovery. So I was on the dry side, and for about 30 days I got treatment as a rehab. And then I went to a long-term living facility for about 6 months, where I learned how to be normal, how to not need to search the streets for drugs, and how to not be a savage all the time. Basically how to live again. So at the 6-month mark, I actually was approved for my own apartment. And I was able to get a 2-bedroom apartment for me and my daughter. So my daughter, she'll be 19, but at the time she was only 5, and I was just getting sober, and I was just leaving the homeless shelter. So I was able to get an apartment right down the street from her school, and I was able to walk her back and forth to school every day, And so, another great thing that actually happened while I was in the homeless shelter, not only did I get clean, but I also met my wife, who I'm with now, while I was living in the homeless shelter. And she has single-handedly changed me in every way, I don't look like a deprived person, I'm sure. She's made a lot of things possible for me, and I met her at my lowest point possible. So I think anyone that wants to make a change in their life can do it at any time. It's just a really difficult thing when you have that thing that makes you feel good all the time, call it a crutch, whatever. But when you have access to that thing that's comforting, whether it's drugs, food, whatever your addictions are, that's what's difficult, is when it's available all the time and you don't know how to not want it, So, I just wanted to say to anybody that hears this, I've been there, and it's really important that when you're serious about your life and when you're serious about making something happen for yourself, it's important that you make people listen. I had 2 or 3 different doctors turn me away the day I decided to get clean. I had my grandmother drop me off at the hospital one way, and I just said, just take me there and leave me there. I begged for help, and one after another, the doctors would come in and they would tell me there's nothing they can really do to help me, because there's a million other people out there just like me that are also struggling with drug addiction. They're not going to take me into the hospital just because I'm addicted to drugs. But I begged and begged and begged, and they just kept making phone calls, and that's how I was able to get into the dry side of that homeless shelter, because I was persistent and I really wanted to change. So never give up on yourself. That's
nice one, man. Nice one. First of all, thank you for serving, and secondly, man, you're just fascinating. I'm happy that you're here. I'm absolutely honored that you shared the story with us now, and basically with me. You shared the story with me, that you took your time to talk to me, and hopefully, if that motivates one person on the way, will be savage, I'm proud that you're clean, and yeah, I'm happy for you, and you're looking great, man. You're looking great. Put up the smile, and
yeah,
because you did really good, man. You did really good, really, really good, absolutely fantastic, So tell me now, if there is one thing that you learned in the army, what that will be?
Never give up. Never give up. Never, ever give up on anything. Anything that you ever care about. If it actually matters to you, then never, ever give up. That's been one thing that has always carried me through. I have doubted myself. I have doubted my talents. I have doubted, I have doubted just choices that I've made. And the one thing I always knew was that if I don't believe in myself, and this is a new revelation, this has been 2 years in the making. I've only been on this kind of mindset for the last 2 years, and it was because of a couple incidents that I went through that kind of made me have to rely on myself more. And so just never give up on yourself. People around you might change. You might come in contact with many people in your life, and you have an opportunity to learn something every single time. Sometimes the only thing you're going to learn from someone is what not to do or how not to be. But you will learn something from every single person. So use their experiences to help you get where you want to be faster. You don't have to fail like other people fail if you know what they did that made them not succeed. So show up every single day. That's what the military taught me. Show up every single day. No matter what, show up. And if you show up and you believe in yourself and you put in a good fight, you at least have a chance. If you don't do those things, you're guaranteed to lose. Or, you're guaranteed not to succeed if you don't do those things. So it taught me how to be strong-minded.
Jesus, this freaking beat is so fire. It's ridiculous how freaking stupid fire this beat is.
So yeah, nice one, man. Really, really happy to have you, and you did really well. You did really well. And I'd say the passion is the main thing to get out of the trouble, get out of the addictions. So when your passion for creating music actually kicked in,
I think there's been a couple moments where I had inspiration to create music, but I didn't jump on it right away. First one, when I was actually in the military, a friend of mine had a computer. And he used to make music with it. And he had a program called, this was like the first of its kind in this genre, in this name. It was called Magic's Music Maker. And now they're on to like Magic's Music Maker 17 or 25. But this was like, this is like the original one. And you couldn't do so many things, but one thing you could do was drag a sound with the mouse and set it down somewhere. So when he wasn't there, I would come and I would like turn on his computer and I would actually try to make beats with his computer when he wasn't there. And then fast forward to when my daughter was born, I had an old E-machine. I don't know if you remember those things, but I had an old E-machine, and I had I was able to put Magic's Music Maker 3 on my E-machine, and I started messing around, and I had about 200 beats that I made over the course of about 3 or 4 years. And my ex-wife accidentally erased the entire hard drive of that computer and wiped out everything that I ever made. And that was devastating. That was in like 2003 or 4. No, I would say like 2006 or 7. And so I stopped making music. I didn't care anymore because I was just so mad. I was so angry. I did all that and I was having fun with it, and then it was just all gone. And I was so mad. And I actually did like stop making music for a while because I just didn't feel like making it anymore. I had so much music, and I was just really annoyed. I don't know. I was in a real addiction then too. So I was staying up all night on drugs and then making music, and it wasn't healthy. But and so when I got sober and kind of like had a lot of free time on my hands, I ended up, thinking a lot about making music. How would I get back into it? I didn't have any money. I saw a commercial with Dr. Dre, and he was sitting on an airplane. I think it was a Pepsi commercial or something. And he was sitting on an airplane, and the waitress, the stewardess, comes up to him and asks him a question, and he pulls off his headphones, and in his lap was a little black box. And I was like, oh, that's what he uses to make music? So I had to start researching this stuff, and it was an MPC. So I saved up, and my wife actually helped me, and we went to into Portland, 2 hours away, and bought the only MPC they had, and it was the store model. It was an MPC 1000, and 3 of the buttons didn't work, and so I got that and came home with it, but I was only using it to sequence iPad apps. I was making music with these synthesizer apps on the iPad, and I was just sequencing. My very first YouTube video shows like this really crap setup. I've got an MPC. I've got a bunch of secondhand thrift store equipment. I got keyboards that are maybe like worth like $1. Just terrible equipment, and I got it all wired up, and a lot of the stuff I got out of the garbage, and I made it work. I actually bought these little transmitters, and I made everything actually work. And that right there, that video, the first video on my channel, it's got like over 10,000 views now, I think, and it's like, I think it's still my most popular video, even though I've got some pretty good videos. But that one, I'm just sitting there by myself in the room, and I'm saying, like, this is the first time I ever looked into a phone and like talked to it by myself, and it was so weird. So I came across very weird and very strange in that, because I'm just sitting there trying to talk to this phone for the first time while I'm making this YouTube video. And I really just got a lot of enjoyment out of wiring stuff and finding new workflows. And MIDI became something so interesting to me and fascinating. I don't know if you are aware of any of the technical terms or whatever, but MIDI is just a protocol that allows 2 machines to talk to each other. So if you understand how MIDI works, you can basically control one machine from another machine. You can control several machines from one machine, and kind of create this matrix of different like components, and you can route everything and set it all up in your own customizable way if you know how to do it. So for me, I'm able to kind of compose almost like full tracks with an intro, with hooks, outro, and all this stuff on the fly, because I have learned how to program stuff to maximize, to maximize my movement. It's all about like efficiency, and it's just straight nerd shit, so you got to really like get into the manuals and figure all this stuff out. And that stuff always just really fascinated me, learning the details and how to work a piece of equipment. And just my love for learning kind of accidentally helped me become a producer, because I'm not really a producer. I've just learned a workflow that I know how to recreate and reproduce sound over and over again consistently because of the workflow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Hey guys, my name's Will. This is my first YouTube video. It's really strange just talking into a cell phone, especially when you're in a house all by yourself. Maybe I'll get used to it. But I'm doing this video because I've had a lot of problems setting up a home studio, probably because I'm using a bunch of mismatched crap that I've picked up here and there.